Hey, man, why you got me back here, man? What's going on?
What's up? How you guys doing?
What's going on?
Oh, man. You know what? A lot's going on. A lot of cool stuff. But today, we're back in the studio on an off day because I screwed up. Do you want to tell them how I screwed up, or do you want me to tell them?
Hey, it happens. It's part of learning curve, but
it is a learning curve, and I'm not a producer, guys.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
I'm doing the producing part. I'm doing the editing part, and I'm still learning. I'm learning a whole bunch. I've learned a lot, but I'm still learning. We had an amazing time and interview and chat with Ashlee Evans-Smith, UFC fighter, podcast owner of Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl. She's also an agent for Sucker Punch, so that company represents famous UFC fighters. She does a lot.
She's amazing, man. She was fun to talk to, and you'll see here in just a little bit when we cut to this. But super cool, super chill.
Super cool chick, huh? Awesome.
Dude, I'm a total fan, man. I think she's gonna be bigger than life.
Yeah. So I had mentioned this, and just a heads up to everybody. Her podcast is very risque. Definitely just adult content.
Awesome.
So adults, you guys can go check that out. It's not everybody's cup of tea, but the way we tie all this in together, like the way I started working with Ashlee was through martial arts. This world is a small world, this martial arts world, and we all try to help each other out anytime we can. And her podcast had some fire damage to it. They reached out to us and they said, "Hey, Abel, I heard you got a beautiful place out there. I heard you got a podcast room. How about, you let me use it for a few podcasts?" And I was like, "Dude, of course." I hope that if I had a need, somebody would step up and help me out. And that's all I could do is just pay it forward and put it out there, because I know that someday I'm going to need something, and I was able to help her out, and we're happy about it, right? The Black Belt Collective is happy that we had her, and she's a very, very cool person.
Yeah, man. I think, like I said, I think there's a lot going on with her that she's going to be big, whether it be in fighting or the business side. I think there's roads that she hasn't even got to yet, Yeah, she's and just to say that we were a little little step in the right. She's doing us a favor for being here.
Yeah, she was definitely throwing us a bone. Yeah. We really appreciate her. Anyway, so we the mistake that I made was that there was a glitch on the soundboard for the first maybe 10 or 15 minutes. And in those 10 or 15 minutes, we kind of talked about how we met, what happened. I kind of gave you the background on that. There was a fire in her podcast room, and she got to use our home here, and she loved it. And she was it was a very pleasant having her and her producers here in house, and I learned a lot from them too, because I got to pick their brain a little bit, and I got to start doing some business with her boyfriend Mike, which is the owner of Submissions Only Series SOS. It's a tournaments that we are hosting. We are the official host of in Huntington Beach.
May 8th.
Yep, and we're going to continue working on that and growing that, and so we're excited. Like, this is like a little power couple here that is taking off, and we're really happy that we figured out how to work together and help each other out.
It feels good to be a part of who we are as a group, and then who we could be. It feels really exciting to
just like how we feel about Ashlee Evans-Smith, UFC fighter and podcast owner, and Mike. Like, we just feel like they have a lot of potential, and we know that we have potential, and it just feels good. It feels good that things are moving in the right direction for everybody that we love and everybody that's in our circle. We just wanted to make sure that we checked in with everybody, and when we phase into this next portion of the podcast, so that you guys understand, those first 10 or 15 minutes are kind of lost, right? But we talk about how she got into martial arts, right? She talks about that she's from a small town up north in California.
Yep. California.
Mm-hmm. And she tells us a little bit about how she wrestled in high school. Kind of tells us a really cool story that we didn't catch, but we do touch on it later on in the podcast about some alcohol abuse and her blacking out, waking up the next day with blood on her hands, a knife in her pocket, and
what would be nice is maybe Ashlee down the road we'll be able to revisit the story.
Oh, of course, and so she talks about how she got into trouble with alcohol, and how she woke up the next day dealing with consequences. But that eventually led to her straightening out and just following and pursuing martial arts and really seeing that there's opportunities out there, and she didn't want to mess up her life. And definitely, we see that she turned it all around, man. She graduated as a champion from wrestling. She got a full scholarship to college because of wrestling, and she ended up graduating as a journalist. It's amazing.
I'm super excited for her to get back to fighting, just because you can tell there's a little fire there. She keeps saying it.
She's like, dude, just watch.
And I'm super excited about that because she's won at every level. The only thing she's missing now is a little piece of the UFC to take with her.
And she was, she was injured, and we talk about that too. She was injured, and there's no excuses in this game, right? And she's probably the first one to say that, but you could see the fire, like you said, you could see the fire in her. She's just like, just watch me come back.
She's got fire, man.
Yeah, she does.
Yeah, she got me pumped yesterday, like beyond belief. Yeah. So yeah, I hope you enjoy it. I think it was one of our better podcasts. I think she's got a great fan base, so we would enjoy them watching it.
Yeah, and guys, for you guys at home, hopefully you guys enjoy the newer sound, a little bit more whole sound. We did some changes around and stuff, and I'm learning more. And as I learn more, I'm implementing that knowledge onto the podcast, and hopefully, it just sounds a little bit clearer for you, a little bit nicer,
for sure.
fuller.
And just remember, her podcast not for everybody, but if you're an adult, go have a cup of wine, listen late in the evening. And you'll learn something. My mind, every time I listen to that, my mind just gets blown, man.
All right, guys, we love you. Hopefully you guys enjoy this, and we're just going to phase right into where, our podcast actually started recording, okay?
Ashlee Evans-Smith.
All right, guys, enjoy.
And she really, her and her partner, they inspired me to do my podcast. And it's funny, I was telling my boyfriend, a few months ago, I'm like, I feel like me and Christina are friends, even though she doesn't know who the fuck I am.
Right? Exactly.
So I know that there's probably a lot of people out there who feel like they know me because I tell everybody very personal things, very personal. I'm like, I'm just going to lay it all out there. But that's part of, why I like podcasting. My goal is to kind of normalize talking more, whether it's about sexual preference or our sexual experiences or just the experiences we've been through, because a lot of people have shame about things that they shouldn't have shame about, and shame dies when stories are told in safe places.
I agree.
And this is a theme that I think pretty much all podcasts probably can relate to.
Yeah.
We're all talking, we're all telling stories and sharing and accepting each other, right? And so that's kind of the vibe I want to give off. I'm like, how can I expect people to feel comfortable with me interviewing them if I'm not going to be 100% candid?
She grew up more like me than I grew up more like you. For sure, the drinking, I started early. I remember it was here, you want a sip? You want to try? And most kids are like, ooh. I was like, okay, this could be something down the road.
Yeah, he's told us stories in the past about how his mom was like, oh, try this, like a shot of tequila or something, and I'm just like, dude, that's nuts. For me, it's but I know, obviously, I know that it exists and people have different upbringings,
Yeah.
but it doesn't predispose you to be a bad person.
No,
because like I said, I love this guy, and he has his crazy stories that you just wouldn't believe. You think they're fake, and they're obviously not. He's really been through this stuff, I
couldn't make it up.
Yeah, so it's kind of cool when we hear you had this story where you woke up one day from blacking out, you had stabbed someone, you went to jail, you went and did your time, and somehow the stars aligned. You were still you continued going to school. Mm-hmm. You still had your scholarship for wrestling.
Yep.
And it somehow worked out.
Yeah. And
no matter how crazy it got, it worked out.
And after college, I got my degree in journalism. I wanted to be an investigative journalist.
That's sick.
I wanted to go overseas. I wanted to get the hard hitting facts. But it was the recession time, 2008, 2009.
Yeah.
I graduated college in 2009 in Silicon Valley. And it was just, my degree was in, we were talking communications. I was the editor of my school newspaper, my junior and senior year. But the year I graduated, the San Jose Mercury, the San Francisco Chronicle, all went down. So I graduated and I was with my thumb in my butt, what the fuck am I going to do now? Why did nobody tell me, hey, you should probably go into broadcast or, not a dying medium.
Yeah.
And so from there, just a chance meeting, I was bartending to make ends meet. Eugene Jackson. He is OG of UFC. He was in, I think, UFC 2 and 3, like when they were wearing wrestling shoes and the one glove guy and stuff like that.
When they were still like hitting them in the nuts, and stuff like that,
like eye poking, like eye gouging, like one roll, like or fish hooking.
Is that a fish hook?
And I think there was no weight classes.
No weight classes, no time limit, you know, or maybe it was like 10-minute matches or something crazy like that. But yeah, he comes in. I've told the story, like kind of like simplify it. He came into the bar, but what actually happened, the long story is I was playing rugby for a short time with a bunch of Tongan and Samoan and Fijian chicks in East Palo Alto. That sounds very hard. It was very hard.
I believe that.
I was the smallest girl on the team, just like, whoa, that's a big bitch. You know? Sorry.
No, they're all good.
And Eugene was our strength and conditioning coach. He was just kind of like doing it for the community. He's a big community guy. He's born and raised in East Palo Alto, I believe. Great guy, but he ended up being my first coach. He saw my potential. He asked me if I want to do MMA. I said, "What's MMA?" And he said, "Oh, it's like wrestling, but with boxing." And he didn't charge me anything. I said, "I don't have any money. I'm a poor college student, or you just graduated." And he said, "I didn't say I was going to charge you. Just show up at 7 a.m., which I'm not a morning person." And so that was like, ugh. And I did it, and we just, I fell in love with the sport. He took me under his wing, and he taught me all these amazing things, not just about like skill set, but, he actually took me into his home too. Like he gave me a place to live. Yeah. I ended up dating his nephew for a short time. Unfortunately, his oldest son just passed away this past year. And I dedicated my last fight to it, even though I lost. But that family just meant so much to me. And we haven't seen each other for many years. But when I heard about Nico, his son's passing, it crushed me because it was like, I'm the kind of person, I'm never going to forget where I came from. I'm still that girl from the Ding 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 small town. I'm still that girl who Eugene, took from just a wrestler girl and made me into a fighter, and I'm still that girl who, was 3-0 in the UFC. And it doesn't matter how many fights I'll win. I think remembering where you came from is very, very important.
Oh, that's very cool.
So Eugene took me in, and I just fell in love with the sport, and I ended up competing. My amateur career, I fought 7 fights in 5 months.
Oh my God!
Just boom, 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 boom. Because
how did you
I had that wrestling mentality, right? Because we would wrestle every weekend in season. You have a season, and
wrestling's pretty nuts, dude.
Yeah, and I was just like, oh, let's do it again. And then I remember losing one, and 6 days later I fought because I was like, I got to get that win back. And now I know, and we all know that's not how you do it with MMA. You got to take time in between fights.
Recover,
learn, develop. Yeah, recovery. I'm still working on recovery. I always overtrain. But, just learn. You got to pull the tape. Where'd you mess up? How can you improve?
Yeah.
And I learned that lesson later, but that's why I tell every young kid or, whoever who's getting into mixed martial arts, your amateur career, it's the time to learn lessons. It's the time to fuck up. It's the time to, find your style.
Maybe take a loss.
It's because you learn more from losses than wins. It's cliche, but it's true.
It's crazy. Speaking of your last fight, as I watched it, before I met you, I had watched that fight. And you can imagine how bizarre it was to me to get a communication from you. I'm like, I know who this girl is. Why? This is weird. And then I hit you back, and I was on a Sunday. I was like, oh, I'm with my family, but I'll hit you back on Monday. Yeah. I called you back on Monday, and then, but it was like surreal to me because I'm like, I just saw her on TV. Like, this is nuts on the UFC. It's like, this is crazy. This is something that I've watched for years and years. And here I am talking, and now I'm sitting here with you, and it's kind of, this is all really weird.
Life is
to
crazy.
me.
Life is cool.
Yeah, it's super cool. I've had fun, meeting you and your people, and how you guys are just a good vibe. You guys are so chill, and I like it.
Yeah.
So I was watching the last fight, and I rewatched it prior to us sitting today, and I was wondering in my head, what happened? What happened in the sense of I could see that some of your movements. It was it was like, were you in pain? What was going on?
Yeah. Well,
so you lost your last fight.
Yeah.
And dude, but you stayed in all those rounds, and most people would have just kind of bailed on that.
Yeah. So long story short, for the last.
She's like, thanks a lot, Abel. I didn't want to.
No, because
and the reason.
Trust me, if I didn't want to talk about my losses,
you're a real asshole. Thanks, Abel.
I've got a couple losses, so I wouldn't be talking.
There's a reason why I bring it up, right? Because we're talking about you coming, from the small town that you come from. Mm-hmm. You've known adversity. This is not your first rodeo.
Yeah.
So you go through something hard. I'm pointing out something maybe difficult that you went through because it looked like man, like she's just not giving up. And at some point, I think that like just having the martial arts background, I would have been like, it's okay. Like if I was a coach, like it's okay if we just go ahead and stop it so you don't take any more damage. Because
throw in the towel.
Because you're so hard headed, like you said earlier, that you would have still kept going if there was 2 more rounds.
Yeah. So what happened was about a year and a half before that fight, I started having pain in my shoulder area, and I thought it was residual pain from a past injury because I had thrown a girl and tore my pec minor, and so I thought that was all kind of like related, but it healed, and then that pain came back, which I'm not a doctor. I was just like, oh, it's probably connected. Yeah. And so it went untreated for months and months. And finally my wrestling coach, Kenny Johnson, was like, look, just go get another MRI. Maybe it's something completely different. And I was like just a dummy, like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. And so I went, and turned out nothing was wrong in my shoulder. So then they did another one on my spine, and I had a spine stenosis, which is basically where the vertebrae were pinching the nerves, and so that was what was causing all that left side pain. Wow. And it basically was something that could have been a one-time thing, like one incident, and just got worse, or how about I've been wrestling since I was 15 years old, and I'm now 33 years old, just using my head like a fucking arm, just posted on it,
Exactly.
doing crazy shit. So fast forward, I had to take a fight, and I had a little bit of pain, but it wasn't that bad at this point. And it was in March, and it was supposed to be in London, right when the pandemic hit, right? So I went over to London, even though the pandemic was like...
I'm surprised they let you travel.
Well, I was like the last person they let travel, and the UFC was like, we don't know what's going to happen. And I was like, well, I'm going. If I get stuck in London, fuck it. At least I tried, right? I wasn't going to just sit here and be like, like I've never been scared, Like don't get me wrong, I'm scared, but like you can be scared and still do something,
Sure,
of course.
Sure.
So, I was nervous, like scared that the fight wouldn't happen, but I wasn't going to not go,
Sure.
And I mean, look at it like the worst case scenario. I was going to be stuck in London for 2 weeks to a month, like free vacation.
Oh, yeah.
So
you'd be stuck in worse places.
yeah,
for sure.
try to look on the bright side. But what ended up happening was had to fly back the next day after I landed in London. Didn't get to fight. So I didn't get paid right away. So I was bummed, like I fight paycheck to paycheck. And so even though I had all that pain, I knew I needed to take another fight whenever the fights opened back up.
Dude, that sucks, man. Because I get it. Like you're like, okay, I need this paycheck.
Yeah.
But you also know the severity of like your injury.
Yeah. And I basically had asked doctors, and I was getting spine epidurals, which sounds very intense, but it was for pain management, because I knew as soon as I fought, I was just going to go get that surgery, and
oh, got it. So you were just trying to like get that out of the way, and then you're going to go get it taken care of.
I mean, I needed to make some money, let's face it. The girl that I fought, she beat my ass, but like, and of course anyone's going to say this probably, but like any other goddamn day, like I would have won that fight. And I definitely could have not taken the fight. The girl didn't make weight. The UFC gave me an option to not take the fight, since she didn't make weight, and still get paid.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, not a lot of people do, but I'm a fucking fighter, and all those months of training.
Yeah,
and,
you're like, I'm gonna make it happen.
And it was like, okay, if I didn't take the fight, then how long was it gonna be before I actually got in the cage? It had already been a year, and then all my time after this was gonna be like what, 2-3 years?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't do that. I'm not a spring chicken anymore. Like I gotta fight now. Now is the time. There's so much urgency in my life to leave my legacy in this sport, and that's gonna take a lot of hard work to get back there in the cage and beat some ass, but I'm not afraid of hard work.
I don't know. What do you call that? Is that bravery?
I
mean, listen.
That's called badass.
Yeah, right? I mean, seriously. I'm just like I'm at loss of words because, look, we all have, especially if you're in martial arts. Like if you've done martial arts for a certain amount of time, you're going to have some injuries, right?
Yeah.
Let alone at your level, like the level that you're doing it at. And it hurts, and that you're stepping into a place where somebody else is also training either as hard as you, right, at the minimum, because they're a professional, and they can inflict some more damage on the damage you already know exists. I mean, that mentally, like you're going into that just grinding your teeth and saying, fuck it, I need the paycheck, I'm gonna make this happen.
I had to lie to myself a lot and be like, this bitch ain't on my level, which, as we all know, if you're at the UFC, like everyone's on your level, but you almost have to lie to yourself to pep your
you gotta have a little bit of an ego.
I'm just like, fuck, I can beat this bitch with one hand tied behind my back.
I think in the type of game that you're in, you have to think that way. Like, right? Yeah. You have to really believe in yourself.
And it's
right?
the fight game.
Like
even boxers, dude, like if you're not being seen, you're not showcased.
Yeah.
you're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
You're not going to get endorsements. You're
Yeah.
not going to get
Yeah.
there's like things that fall in line.
You got to stay relevant.
Yeah,
you got to stay relevant. And it's such a crazy sport, right? Because it's not like basketball, it's not like baseball. It's sport, but it's also entertainment. Like there's this kind of like WWE aspect to it, where it's like everyone kind of has like a character, and it's like, how many followers do you have? Like are you a big draw? Like are people gonna pay to see you fight? Like it's not like that with other sports teams, right? Because they're a team. It's just like you yourself have to like be a brand.
You are the product.
You have to be an awesome athlete. You have to be marketable. You have to be charismatic. You have to, be your own promoter and your own, marketer on social media. And,
and you do a good job at it, by the way.
Yeah, you do. Absolutely. I mean, and in the interactions that we've had, I've always seen you hustling. You're always doing something. Like you're talking to someone. So aside from being a fighter, right, having your awesome podcast, Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl, you have other things going on. Like, I mean, I don't even know if it's okay to say it, but like you work with another company where you represent people. Like you were talking about, like we were talking about like the endorsements. I was kind of picking your brain a little bit. And you're like, I also do this, and I'm just like, dude.
I guess you would call me like an agent, and that sounds so professional, but I do work for my management company. So Sucker Punch Entertainment, we have a lot of female, a lot of high-level fighters on the roster. You got Paul Felder, Rose Namajunas, Carla Esparza, just Angela Hill, like the list goes on. And
you got Thug Rose on there?
Yeah, this is Brian Butler and Brian Hamper's company, and I've been managed by them, Sucker Punch, for a few years now, and recently Brian Butler, who's just a great manager, he saw the potential that I had for sponsorships and negotiating and networking and kind of being organized, which are all things that a good agent needs. And he's like, hey, no pressure, but if you'd like to come on and kind of
that's so cool.
on your own, just get our fighters what you can, get yourself what you can, take a small percentage. And I'm like, yeah, why not? This is the perfect kind of job that I can do while I'm healing, while I'm getting back, getting ready to get back in the cage. And then who knows, maybe I'll fall into that after fighting, right?
It's funny because this is going to sound so stupid, and I'm sorry that I'm a nerd this way, but it's like be like water, right? Like Bruce Lee said, right? That's like literally, you're so nimble, and that's the reason why you're so successful, and that's the reason why I told you before, dude, you're gonna blow up so big. I see it. I see that potential, and you're nimble, like you're like water. You just could do all these things because you're not just like, oh, I'm this tough girl. No, it's like you have toughness, you have that softness, and then like you're just somewhere like in between all that. It's beautiful.
And
it's awesome.
Coming from a guy who's like into like the media stuff, and I know that right now is like the time to hit, especially for a woman. You're like in like a zone right now where if you wanted to do just the media stuff or just like what you were saying as far as for Sucker Punch, you could. And you could be successful at it. That's what's really cool.
What I'm realizing, I would like to think that I could pick one and just be amazing at it, but
why?
Why? But like some of the people that I look up to the most, like I use Joe Rogan, for example, just because he does a lot of things that I love, right? So he commentates, he does stand-up comedy, he has his own podcast. I'm forgetting some stuff, but he does so many other things, right? And then, he has his company on it, all that stuff. So some of the most successful people that I admire, they do a lot of different things.
Just that alone is huge, right? Just having that company.
So you know how I knew I liked her? Before one of her podcasts, she was like, I watch a documentary on Richard Pryor and the Comedy Store.
Yeah.
My two favorite things.
Yeah.
Like I used to go to the Comedy Store all the time. I saw Martin Lawrence perform there. I've seen like all kinds of people. So when you said that, I was like, yes. And then you had Pauly Shore on it, and I was like, I used to love Pauly Shore, but he was a little much for me. I was like, man, take it down a notch, bro. Take it down.
Yeah, I'm like that's part of the job that it still blows my mind. The people that I meet, like you're saying, it's crazy that you're sitting here, but it's like, it's crazy for me because you did something super nice for me. So I appreciate and value this interaction just as much as I appreciate meeting Pauly Shore. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
sure.
Don't get me wrong, like Pauly Shore is awesome, and he was my childhood, that goofy like it's great, but like
yeah, bro.
But like this is like you said, this is a connection that who knows, maybe we'll be lifelong friends.
Thank you for that. That's like really kind words. Honestly, it's unexpected, and I don't even know how to react to that. But that's like so cool that you said that.
He loves it.
No, well, I do because I do appreciate love, and I know it's genuine. We had a conversation. I don't know if you remember it, but we had a conversation in my office where we said, a lot of times people like us get hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Because we put that love out there. And it's not always reciprocated. And it doesn't have to be because you give love freely. But it feels really good when like somebody sees it and acknowledges it. Like that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Like just that one interaction is worth it.
So me and him are pretty close, right? And I'm the same way. I get hurt a lot by people. And like when he comes at me and he's like, "I love you, bro," and I'm like,
He doesn't even know how to act.
I'm like, what are you saying? What are you fucking telling me?
He starts cussing at me.
I do. It's like a thing that
I'm like, Gary, just accept it, dude. I love you. And then he gets all bent out of shape.
I'm like, what do you fucking want? Man? What's going on?
That's awesome.
You're like Timon, dude. When the world turns their back on you, you turn your back on the world. You know, you don't know how to act. You know, but I'll tell like Mr. AJ, the big guy that you met out there, I'll tell him I love you, and then like he'll be like, I love you too, bro. And he comes and gives me a hug, you know. But everybody has like different ways of showing love and reciprocating love. You know what I mean?
Yeah. This is something I talk about a lot on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's like, so like when you say stuff like that, it kind of makes me laugh a little bit because it's like, dude, she gets it.
Dude, I can't believe she's here because I just listened to her last podcast today.
You know what? You're ridiculous. Let me tell you something. I'm going to call you out on something. Every guest that we've had that's like worth their own, right? Like you always say, I can't believe you, like I can't believe it. You know what? I'm tired of it. You gotta give some credit, man. Come on.
Hey, man, I'm propping her up, man. I love that podcast. It's like my favorite podcast right now. I listen to like 90% of them. So a couple of them I zipped through.
Yeah.
But 90% of them I was at work and like, oh my God. My coworker's like, what the hell are you listening to? And he knows me. I'm the type. I'm like you. I'm like, what?
Like I said, for everybody at home,
it up, you know?
like I said, for everybody at home, it's pretty risque. It's not everybody's cup of tea. But like I said before, the cup of tea is extremely entertaining. For you adults out there, go check it out. Give it a try.
The other thing was because I can be dirty and I can be, all that. And I was like, I found, like, the woman. Like, this is, like, awesome. I'm like, I never knew that. I never knew they fought on their periods.
Yeah.
I was like, what the heck is going on here? My mind was just like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, they enjoy sex? What the hell?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what a podcast should be. It should be entertaining and educational, right?
Absolutely.
And inspiring if you can. Like, that's the three things that I try to be: educational, entertaining, and inspiring. And I know it's like hard to be because it's like if you're a sex podcast, it's probably raunchy. Or if you're MMA podcast, it's probably all sports. If you're like a calm meditation podcast, it's probably inspiring. But like I try to bring it all together in one with like you said, like I seem genuine. That really is me.
Right.
It really is me. I really am telling you guys everything that's going on in my life. It's crazy because if you start listening to the first episode and you're up to date, you went through all that pain. You went through the fight camp. You went through the loss and the heartache. And now you're going through the recovery. And then you guys keep listening because you're gonna see the fucking comeback. You're gonna hear it and you're gonna see it.
That gives me the chills, man.
Hey,
I'm telling you,
that's where I'm excited.
Dude.
We're like get to be a part of it now. We're like
we're right dab in the middle of it. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so
I'm
inspiring.
gonna be like, I know her, and then I'm gonna see her, and she's gonna be like, who are you again?
Hey, and straight up, like, look, we like I brought up the loss, and that's hard for me to bring up because
No, it wasn't, you asshole.
No, because I really want to show that contrast. Like, you didn't stay there and dwell on that. Like, you're still out kicking ass
that's
and like
awesome, dude.
doing shit every day. Like I said, I've seen you like move right when you were working here, and I even asked like which was kind of stupid and nerdy, but I was like, hey, can I take a picture like while you guys are setting up? I don't know if you remember that. And like I kept the picture it wasn't to post, it was for me to like as a memory, like, dude, we had like a really cool person here that's like famous and it's like, look, they're at my place that I created. Like, it's so cool. Like for me, that was like a personal like just a memento for me, you know what I mean? And it's just like I'm really happy that we got to do this.
You were on his radar a long time ago because he was like, oh, I met these guys and check out her.
I did. I told him.
Check out Ashlee's podcast one, but check out her social media because we're always like, he's like, this is what we should do. This is what we need to do. We need to post more like this. So he turned me on to you a long time ago. I was like, you don't really know her.
And check this out. I don't know if it's okay to say, but your boyfriend, he's also a businessman and he's a black belt for 10th Planet, correct? And he puts on these amazing shows. And we were lucky enough to be able to help him host one here at our studio. And I just, what he brought like I see something in him, you know, like just like I see in you. I like your guys' worth ethic. You guys are just hustling, but it's hustling in a good way. Like there's people out there that say I'm a hustler, and they don't care what trail they're setting, and they just might be running people over as they're hustling.
Yeah.
And to each their own.
Yeah.
But what I see you guys doing is you guys are trailblazing in your own right, but you guys are making sure that the people you're coming across are also benefiting and achieving something with you guys, and that's rare. That's very, very rare.
You know, I learned that from Mike, my boyfriend. He like not. I'm gonna make myself sound kind of bad, but like if someone wants to do something for me for free, because I come from no money, you know, even though like I'm working, you know, no, not even that. I'm just like okay, like I'm just like sweet, free is better, you know, like I have a survivor mentality, you know, like I could survive on top ramen if I have to, you know, or whatever. But one thing he taught me was look. Pay people because you're going to get what you put in, you know? And I'm like, yeah, but this person's going to do it for free. And he's like, no, you got to pay people to show them that you value them, to know that you're going to get a good product, to hold people accountable. Like he has such great business mindset. And for me, yeah, I'm hustling, but I have learned so much from him in the time that we've been dating. And yeah, I'm lucky to be with him on a lot of levels, but the podcast and me as a brand has been growing exponentially ever since him and I started dating, because if I was a little shy about something, he pushes me to go do it. You know, if I'm, this fucking tech stuff, you know, he knows how to do it. You know, if I'm like, what should I do this? He pulls from his network of people. And I'm like, this is what a relationship should be like. No matter what we're going through, or no matter what we're doing, we're a fucking team. Sure. And I love that. And you know, like obviously like attraction and fun and all that, but the support, I've never had that before.
This is really crazy because it's funny because you were on my radar and he was too. I didn't know that you guys were boyfriend and girlfriend. Yeah. And the reason why he came on my radar is because I hope it's okay to say, but he was going to open in Whittier, a 10 p.m. Whittier.
Yeah.
That place that he was going to purchase or purchased, he one of my old buddies owned that, and I was like, oh, who's this guy? And I was like, Jiu-Jitsu, whatever his thing on Instagram.
666 Jiu-Jitsu.
Yeah, and I was like, who is this dude? So like I click on it. And I'm like, no, he's like totally cool. I don't even know. I'm gonna ask him why that's that. But I was like, oh, all right. So like I hit follow because I'm like, this is a person that's buying a studio of a friend that I've known for a long time, you know, Johnny, and so he was on my radar, and then all this weirdness happened where we got to like work on stuff together and all that. And then I got to work with him and I was just like, how bizarre is this? I had like friended him, like no joke, like a year before, maybe more. And then like now like this person is here and we're doing business together. And then I got you sitting next to me. It's just weird how this universe just is.
We talk about that all the time though. We're all bumping into each other for a reason, right? I mean,
I believe so.
Yeah,
I believe so.
We talk about that universe shit in here all the time.
And it doesn't have to be this like spectacular thing like we're doing business. It could just be literally like there's a reason why we're sitting here talking, and I enjoy it. I'm enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what I am. Maybe I'm agnostic. Maybe I'm atheist. I don't know. I just don't know what the heck's going on. I'm just going to live my life to the best of my ability and do unto others that I'd like to be done to. And, you know, try and leave this world a better place somehow, you know? I mean, I don't know what I'm going to do. Maybe I can inspire some people to, you know, be happier on the podcast or to work out or be an athlete. Yeah. I don't know.
I always make like jokes with, I poke the bear and then like, because we talk about God and we talk about mortality, immortality, and like what this whole universe thing is. Like I believe in God and he knows that and he gives me a hard time about it. But for what it's worth, you know, because you're saying like what your beliefs are, for what it's worth, I thank God that I met you and Mike, you know. It's like I said, there's a reason for it. I don't know what that reason is, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
I will say this. He did say that Mike was phenomenal to work with, and he would work with him ever again. And he told me that.
And that's not normal, to be honest. These guys know I'm like super picky about.
Like he's super nice. He's usually got me right behind him. I'm like, hey man, fuck off, get out of here, you know, type thing. But he's usually like, no, maybe we'll try another business way down the road or something. He like texted me right away. It was like, Mike's super cool. They're super cool. You know, it was a lot of fun.
It's not only that
I liked working with them. I'm going to work with them again. I'm going to find a way.
They get shit done, and I like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, they get shit done, and I really enjoy that. Because if you have people that are getting stuff done, like even if it's a little bit at a time, you're just chipping away at something bigger, and I love it. I love that there's like that you're not stagnant. You know what I mean? I don't like that. I don't like being still. The
sexiest, like most attractive thing he's done since we've been dating. We've been dating November, December, January, February, March, like a year and a half now. And the sexiest thing he's ever done was when the pandemic hit, and like I couldn't fight. He couldn't open, his dream. Yep. His dream was to open his own 10th planet. And he's a black belt. You work your whole life to become a black belt.
Sure.
And
especially in that system, it's like that system's like, okay, it's your turn.
Well, like whatever. It's just like if you're a black belt, you put the fucking work in, right?
Absolutely.
And so like it crushed a lot. Pandemic crushed a lot of people, right?
Yeah.
And you had two types of people who fucking laid down and they took it and they felt sorry for themselves, and the kind of people that like me and Mike, we felt sorry for ourselves for a second, and then we got the fuck up and we made something. I created a podcast. He created an event. He got another job. He works for a company called New Way that he travels to the
dude,
Midwest.
He was telling me about that, about the wrestling and the jiu-jitsu.
He's not just putting on events for SOS, but he's traveling. I'm sorry, guys. I'm talking a lot about my boyfriend.
That's okay.
But I love him for a reason.
We're gonna have to have him on here too. So
yeah, do it.
I love it because I've heard a lot of your different conversations with other people, so I love hearing other things that I haven't known about. So
yeah. Everyone's like, when am I gonna interview myself? And I'm like, well, I don't think that's possible. But I said maybe for like the 100th episode, I'll bring someone on to interview me, and then it'll be like,
cool.
My story.
You bring him on to interview you.
Oh, he would never. No. He's like he takes the kind of hands off, because it's like like your girlfriend's talking about sex and whatnot. But I'm sure like you don't want to hear your girlfriend talk about. Like I have on guy guests sometimes. I'm sure he's just
I can imagine.
I'll be tuning off with this one. Like
I was like, there's a couple. And I was like, I think she has a boyfriend.
yeah.
I was like, okay.
He's very cool, and that's you have to be cool. Him and I just watched Howard Stern the other night, Private Parts, the movie, and I had never seen it, and I'm like, I resonate with this situation, because the wife's like, babe, like we have to have some privacy at home, and he's like, what, and so like I don't tell everything about him, our relationship, but I do talk a lot about
story.
it.
I ditched work in I'm old. In 1995, 94, told my wife, I'm going to work, see you later. I stood in the Stern line to hear him live in LA at the Palladium.
Oh my God.
I almost lost my job over it.
Oh my God, Gary.
Yeah. I almost lost my job over it. But it was awesome. So I'm a Stern fan.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah. So
I love it.
I read all his books. I met him one time. It was like, oh, this guy's amazing.
What I'm trying to do with the podcast is be somewhere between Howard Stern and Joe Rogan.
That's what I told him. Like I grew up on all these cool radio guys, and it's like now podcasting's out.
It's kind of cool that you say that, because it's like I could see that, like it's like the shock value, and then you have like also like moments where you learn a whole bunch of stuff, and it's also very lighthearted. Yeah. So like it's a good.
I mean, if we're talking about like sex, sometimes I try to tie in the MMA aspect to it. Like fighters and whatnot.
I heard you say that.
Yeah, for sure. So going back to your fighting career, right? So you were out of high school, got your pretty much your ticket to college scholarship to go to wrestle in college.
Mm-hmm. Dude,
and then you learned
little fact before you go on, she was an All-American in college also, just so you know.
Yeah.
I thought that was in high school.
No, I was a 3-time tri-state champion in high school, and then in college I was a 4-time All-American.
Yeah, dude, that's no joke.
That's legit.
It's so funny. I'm so hard on myself, I know, but like I don't even like saying that, because like, I think the highest I got was 4th nationally, but like in my mind I'm like, you didn't get first, And
but imagine, fourth is
that's amazing.
Pretty amazing.
That is amazing,
especially in wrestling. Yeah. Wrestling, like you just said it, you're wrestling like every weekend. You're putting in the work. Wrestlers are insane. That's why I was like, I think I'm done wrestling. Yeah.
So you have this amazing career, this wrestling career, through college. When did you get that phone call? Like, when did you get that call where you were like, all right, like, this is big time. Like, this is what's up.
So, remember, I graduated college, and then I was bartending and, playing rugby, just kind of like,
right.
And then that's how I met Eugene Jackson.
Right.
So, I started training with him in Northern California, and I trained under him for about a year, and I followed my heart down here to Southern California, and, I started seeing a boy, and that, like, lasted 2 weeks, but like in my head, I was like, I can't go back to Northern California with my tail between my legs. Like, just kidding, guys, I'm back, because I'd been like, I was like, bye friends, bye everyone. I'm going to Orange County. And so I struggled for about a year, like waitressing, bartending to make enough money to get my own place. I finally got my own place. And then from there, it was just lots of training. I found Adam Lynn at Subfighter MMA. They're in Lake Forest, and one of my most favorite humans. He was a coach he got me to where I was in the UFC. We had a few fights together for World Series of Fighting and CFA, where I won a 145-pound belt, and then we also had one fight in the UFC together, and it was such a great experience. And from there, I've jumped around a couple different gyms because you kind of like plateau, and sometimes the chemistry is not right with certain coaches or certain gyms or whatnot. But it's just been kind of like a roller coaster of a career. I've had some wins, I've had some losses, I've had some injuries, but I'm nowhere near finished. A lot of people are like, they see the podcast or they see like situations going on, and they're just like, oh, she's done fighting, and like I'm nowhere near done fighting.
That's awesome.
That is good to hear.
I don't want kids, like I'm 33.
I was going to ask you that.
Yeah, I'll be 34 in July, so it's not like I'm, got a ticking time bomb down there or anything like that. It's like I can fight until I'm 40. Some of the best females are in their 40s. Holly Holm, Marion Renault, they're in their early 40s. So I think this is just a new chapter of my life where I've faced all this adversity, and I've I don't know if you listen to the podcast a lot, but I talk about how I'm newly sober, about a year and 8 months or something like that.
Congratulations.
And that's the longest I've ever been sober. So with all these new body parts, my neck and whatnot, and then being sober, like what am I going to be capable of? I don't even know, because I've never been this good. I've never been in that pain. I don't have a pain anymore. I don't have to worry about hangovers and feeling like shit during training, and just feeling guilty because I know I'm not living my life the way I should be, and taking full advantage of the opportunities in front of me.
That's very cool. Because even earlier you said that you were living like a double life, right? Where you were wrestling and then you were like partying a little bit. And then like what you're saying right now, like you're totally sober and like you have this opportunity to like just like make that like your shot, you know? Like,
I mean, I've had this
healthy
opportunity in front of me for a long time, right? I've been in the UFC since 2014, and a lot of people are like, whoa, really? Because I don't fight that much. Sometimes it's like, one time I got suspended for a diuretic, and like, oh, Ashlee, you're bringing it up. But it's like, hey, fuck, it happened, like, I'm not embarrassed of it. I learned my lesson, and we move on. And then I take a fight, and then, one girl pulls out, and then I get injured, and then, pandemic happens. It's just, that's how my career's been. But what I'm saying is, like, now that I don't have anything in my way, God, I really hope another pandemic doesn't happen, but, like, knock on wood, like, no more injuries, no more alcohol in my life, like, the sky's the limit for me. What's it? Sky's the limit? Sky's the limit,
Sky's the limit.
There are no limits. The sky's not the limit. You're going to do amazing. You're going to do awesome.
You know what I like? She just like owns up to everything she's done.
It's like, this is who I am. Whatever.
Totally love that.
Love it.
You hear people like,
dude.
In diuretics and stuff like that, it's that's a weird science anyways. So,
Well, for a long time, even like if you smoke weed or anything like that, like.
I would have never been able to fight.
So like you would have, like it was just like it was a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Now it's like it's not a big deal anymore.
Yeah. So each year the banned substance list changes, and I think now UFC and USADA, our anti-doping agency or testing agency, they do not test for marijuana, but each state that you fight in, it has a different commission,
Different one, right?
right?
Oh.
Commission, and each state.
Are they different guidelines?
Different commission, right? So Nevada has a Nevada Athletics Commission. California is different. So, and I know that Nevada, if you fight there, it's pretty much like you still can't smoke weed. You can have a little bit in your system, but don't fuck around. Like someone like me who's already got like one strike, it's like, oh,
you can't mess
I
around.
gotta be careful.
So this is why people don't like take big fights in New York anymore, or in some of these other places that are really strict. That are really strict now
on the marijuana. Yeah, New York was real. I fought in New York, the Barclays Center. And they sent out a big email to all the fighters, and they were like, "Yo, the limits in New York is like way tiny, so be careful." They're not telling you you can, but it's like, why play around?
It's like what you just brought up right now. Like so, like there's a fighter, and then they're like, "Okay, where's the fight going to be?" yeah, I want to fight that person. Where's the fight going to be? Such and such place. Oh no, I'd rather not. You know, like it's crazy how they would choose that.
And that's why the fight game became so big in Nevada. The history of that is they were very lenient on their boxing when it was in the 80s and 90s at its height. All these other states were starting to have guidelines. And
Nevada was still making things happen.
Nevada was like, we're Florida, and, come on over. Yeah. And they started having the Tyson fights. Come on, Mike Tyson in the 90s, that guy was on something all the time.
Come on, man, he's a beast.
Oh, don't get me wrong, I love the guy, but...
Do you know Mike just met him?
Oh, are you serious?
Mike was going over to... Oh God, like Tennessee or Wisconsin, some crazy far Midwest place, and he was with him on the flight.
Oh no way!
And then he took a second flight. He was with him again.
Oh, nice! Did he introduce himself?
And then at the end of the flight, he was at the carousel, right? And everybody got their bags except for him, like both Mike and Mike Tyson.
Funny,
and
dude.
so
Come on, man.
And I guess he was like, they forget your bag too, and he's like, my boyfriend was like, it's probably because we're both named Mike, and he was like, oh, your name's Mike too? And Mike's like, yeah, I'm Mike too. And
dope.
like, they had like a little interaction. Like, I guess Tyson was there for his daughter's like tennis tournament or something like that. Yeah. But Mike got a picture with him, and I'm just like, one of those interactions where you're just like, man, the universe is crazy. And you know what's crazy is the last fight of mine, like November 29th, that's the night that Tyson fought.
Are you kidding?
And we like, unfortunately I lost, but we like rushed home, and I'm like in the hotel room with my coaches and my boyfriend, and I'm like icing my face, and we're watching Mike Tyson, and I'm like, I'm never going to forget that, because I didn't think I was going to be alive.
Yeah, to see him fight again.
And I was just like, oh, like I could have won tonight, but I hope you win.
That's so dope.
We had a big fight night here for Tyson during the pandemic. We were social distancing.
Yeah.
But now we're gonna have some
throwback.
We're gonna have somebody in the UFC that we have.
We're gonna come watch. We have all those TVs out there, so we had the UFC going on. We had Mike's fight on.
Yeah, your fight was on.
Yeah, and we had all the TVs going with different fights. Yeah,
that's
so it's
awesome.
kind of cool. Yeah.
Yeah, this location is.
So now
we're
gonna have to like watch you when you're.
Oh, she's got a fan club, dude. I'm gonna be like.
So cool.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, the setup out there is sick, because like I always joke about this, but I really do. Like my wife, I tell my wife it's a business, but it's really like the ultimate like man cave.
Oh yeah.
But I just have to make sure that it balances out with the income. It's just like, but it's the ultimate man cave. It's not a business.
I believe that's why Mike wants to do the job he's done, because it's just like he gets to play on the mat all day.
Yeah,
Exactly. I'm like, okay, I understand.
That's my goal, is to eventually retire and be like, I'm with Abel. I'm just chilling over here.
Yeah, you gotta do the stuff you love. Like like even me being on this like podcast. Like when you hit me up, you're like, oh, like I was wondering if we could use your podcast. I'm like, Ashlee, I know that you have like a real podcast, so why don't you come and look at it first and then tell me if you want to use it? And you're like, no, it's cool. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I don't want to embarrass myself. Come and look at it.
He's a perfectionist too with everything.
Come
so
and
it's
look
like,
at it, you know. And then once you were here, and then you're like, no, yeah, this is good. I'm
it's
like,
legit.
Right. I was like, all right.
No, this is great. This is great. And I know there's a lot of people doing a lot more with a lot less.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get it.
And that's the beautiful thing about podcasting, is that you don't have to have state-of-the-art microphones. You don't have to have a big following. You can, it's going to be harder to grow it, right? But you can just be you and your Yeti mic in your garage, and that's beautiful.
So I don't want to feel like I'm checking you out, but I keep seeing your tattoo. What is that one?
This one? Oh God, I have so many. Right here we got like a sailboat.
That one kept catching my eye, and the girl one.
The wolf head.
Yeah,
and that's
sick.
That's dope. Yeah.
It's funny because people like talk about my arm, which I like my tattoos on my arm, but it's like I had one person kind of work on my sleeve, and then my lower body is like
really?
One side is like my whole leg is like covered. Like I'm almost finished with my leg.
I was like this right now. Hopefully she doesn't think I'm like checking her out right now. Because I'm like looking intently at her. So I had to bring it up before.
I'm not worried about her, dude. She could defend herself.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah, she'll put you on your back, dude.
You know, the funny thing is like I never know why people are looking at me. Like my insecurity, it's always number one. So I'm like, oh, like I look ugly. Like there's something in my teeth, or they don't like me. And then like second is like, well, maybe they're looking at my tattoos because I look different. Sure. I'm not like your average looking person. And then lastly, I'm like, maybe they watch UFC. I don't know. You know what's
really cool is that we were having a conversation one of those times where you did a podcast here, and I was saying bye to you, and as you were leaving, two of the parents are like, dude, that's Ashlee, right? And I was like, yeah. They're like, oh man, that's so cool. You know her? And I was like, oh yeah. And I told them what you were doing here and stuff.
Cool.
But to me, I thought it was kind of cool that like they're like, oh, like we know who that is, you know? Like,
you know, I know I'm not like, oh, so famous, but it will always shock me when someone like recognizes me, even though I am like kind of recognizable, you know. But like it's different. Like the other day I was at the 7-Eleven over by my house, and this guy
where they have the great coffee.
Yeah, great coffee. Yeah, and he was just like, hey, you're a fighter. You're Ashlee. And I was like, I'm like, yeah. And he looked like, you know, I didn't want to stereotype, but he just didn't look like he was an MMA fan. He looked very like professional. Like, I don't know, you know, what is an MMA fan, right? It could be like an old lady,
seriously,
you know, it could be a grandma or it could be a young kid, right? But yeah, I'm always shocked when someone recognizes me, especially not in like an MMA environment. Like, oh, if we're at the UFC fights, okay,
sure.
But you know, like 7-Eleven, like, hey, I'm like, oh.
Hey, so with this podcast, are you getting your feel of like the journalism that you were pursuing when you graduated?
You know, I am, because my favorite part about journalism wasn't the research and the writing. You know, like Lord knows my grammar and punctuation is not the best, but it's the interaction, right? It's, you know, literally getting the interview, you know, and then I'd have to go back and compile it and whatnot. And, you know, I played around with photography a little bit too. I like taking pictures back in the day, but I get to kind of do that with my social media, right? Like, you know, put a picture, add the music, kind of use the effects. Like I love marketing, social media marketing in that sense. And then with the journalism aspect, it's just, I love talking and getting to know someone. I do research on my guests, but there's a fine line between doing too much research, you know, and then doing a little bit so it's organic and kind of the conversation flows.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't want, like, yeah, you definitely don't want to be like, oh, what's next? Oh, what's next? It's like, you have to have a conversation. Yeah. And I think that's what's beautiful about podcasting. I think that's the reason why I like it so much, because like nowadays everything's so fast, right? Everything, social media, the way we communicate through emails, all that stuff. And people are forgetting how to talk to each other. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like, look, we've been sitting here for, I don't know, maybe 45 minutes, 50 minutes almost.
No, it does not feel like that.
And then, but it's like, we're talking, we're listening, and we're interacting with each other. And it's rare nowadays, you know?
Yeah.
So we're actually like, it's just like a throwback, you know? Like, this is cool. We're holding on to a part of a society, doing this podcast, doing your podcast, doing our podcast. We're doing something to our society. We're trying to hold on to that communication and that just like sitting down listening to each other. You know what I mean?
So you're right. And I'm sorry, just to say, it's so that is, it's so rare, like you said, right, in person, but at least we're doing it virtually, right, or through technology, and that's why I enjoy shining a spotlight on the fighters or the people that I have on my show, the guests, right, because people like dehumanize, especially fighters, right? Like, you suck, you can't even throw a high kick. But then
everybody's back here.
Yeah, but then you hear, okay, you know, when I was younger, like this happened and blah, blah, blah. And
exactly.
It's like, if you humanize the person
like,
again, and
you
know, it's like talking and that just learning about someone is so important. And yeah, you're right. I love podcasting for that reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of our first ones was with his dad. And I said, I want to interview your dad. And he was kind of like, okay, but I've heard all his stories. And I was like, no, but I haven't. And I'm going to draw out something different from him that you might not know. And there was a lot of stuff.
Yeah, my dad's story is insane. And it was cool that we got him on.
Yeah.
It was really cool because like there was like little spurts of just like his business like savvy, 2 or 3 words. And we were just like, dude, this guy, like he just got it. Like he has it, you know,
Yeah.
that X factor. Like there's a reason why he's so successful at everything he does. And one thing he said was, you know, what I've learned, and he's like really calm, like mellow, is like what I've learned in doing business is you don't chase the money. You know, the money will come. You do the right things, the money will chase you. And then we're just like, dude, just like that alone. If you just sit down and analyze that alone, it's pretty much saying what we're doing. Like, do something good, do work, keep your work ethic. Fame, fortune, all that stuff will come automatically once you're putting that together. You have a good work ethic, you have some goals in mind, and while you're setting your goals and while you're working on your work ethic, you're going to be crushing your goals, but you're going to be helping other people as well.
Yeah.
And it all will just come together.
Yeah.
And that's really the mentality behind our school. Like putting the money in, putting the resources in, the time, the effort, the headaches, the heartaches. There's a lot of heartaches in this stuff. It's worth it because we're not doing. Like, we're not working with numbers and saying, okay, we're going to add this, but, you know, it's got to make sense. What we're doing is we're building it, and they're coming. And people are seeing that what we're building is cool, and they're supporting it. And even through all this craziness with COVID and bunch of places closing, we're still strong, and I'm so thankful for that, you know.
Yeah.
And it's just like paying it forward, just working hard, putting a good product out there, like you're doing. You're the product. You're putting it out there, and you keep your worth ethic, and everything else is going to come. Everything else is going to come, and we've seen it live and direct from here, from our studio, like, you know.
So only two things I want to know before we lose you, and is Rebel Girl. Where'd you get the name from?
Yeah, that's cool.
There's not like a super cool story. So I love tattoos, obviously, and I got Rebel Girl before it was my nickname. I got it on my side of my head. So Bikini Kill is a band, it's a punk rock band, and Kathleen Hanna is a singer, and there was like this strong movement in the 80s and for female vocalists and in the punk scene, and it was like kind of like taken back, really. It's for me, it was like the whole song and the band kind of represented something that I resonated with, right? Like rebel girl, like, do what you want to do, like regardless of what society says. And, like that story I told you guys with my, friend's dad saying like, oh, you've been doing the same shit for many years.
But now you're getting paid for it.
Now you're getting paid for it. And it's just like, yeah, like I've always done what I wanted, like I don't want to hurt people, obviously I have, but like, it's like I've always kind of just done my own thing, whether it's the kind of music I listen to, like even what I eat, like being like a vegan or being, a mixed martial artist. And so I got that tattoo, and then somewhere along the way, I was doing a signing, like they pay you to do like signings at events, and I was doing a signing and someone came up and they're like, hey, can you write Rebel Girl on there? And I was like, oh, that's not my nickname. They're like, why? It should be.
Oh,
and I was
that
like,
is a cool story. What are you talking about?
Very cool
and
story.
I was like, I don't know. And then like it was just a fan that said that, and so I wrote Rebel Girl, and then someone else behind them was like,
oh.
can you write it again? I was like, fuck, I guess I'm Rebel Girl. And like everyone,
I like that.
But that resonates with them too, right? They're like looking at you, and they're like you obviously resonate to them, and so for them just to put that, like they gave you that label.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
That's kind of cool.
I mean, I'm just like, did I give myself a nickname? Because like that's not cool. Like I'm a firm believer, like you got to earn your nickname, and like even if it sucks, you kind of just got to take it, and then you grow into it. But I'm like, did I give myself my own, or did someone give that to me because they thought? Cool. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's the story.
Yeah, right on. Yeah, so I know that you have a whole bunch of other stuff to do. We just want to thank you for being here with us. Maybe in the future we can get you on the mats, maybe teaching some of these girls some stuff.
Yeah,
do a seminar or do something. That would be so awesome.
Hey man, if she wants to spar, I'm up for sparring too.
Me and Carla used to do. It was called Fight Like a Girl.
I saw that,
and we miss it. We just both got caught up with our own lives, like she's killing it. I'm so fucking proud of her. But like every once in a blue moon, our schedules will align.
Oh, very cool.
And we'll be like, I got free time. You got free time. Like, let's do it. And so, it's usually a, what's it called? Donation-based situation where, girls, guys can come too, it's called Fight Like a Girl, but it's, mainly female-based self-defense seminars.
Do something here.
Yeah.
You haven't seen Abel fight then. Cause,
yeah. And what we do
fight
is
like a rebel girl.
we can do all levels, so like beginner, intermediate, and advanced, and we kind of just like separate them. And, we've done different ones throughout the years. And yeah, it's, like it's our way of giving back. Because I speak for Carla as well. It's like this sport made us who we are. Carla and I actually met our freshman year in college. We wrestled all 4 years together.
Oh, you're
in college.
kidding?
Yeah, so we were.
I was gonna bring that up.
Shout out to Carla Esparza.
You got other people that came from that college also, right?
Yeah, Josh Emmett is from there. Danny Castillo.
Oh, right.
He was before us. I think he was the first one from Menlo College to make it to the UFC.
College,
yeah.
man, putting out the UFC refs.
And now their wrestling program is crazy because they're a private college. There's 750 students there. So imagine the wrestling program is not going to be that big because the fucking school's not that big, right? But now they're just killing it. I think they won nationals a year or two or last year, something like that. And we were like, when I was in school, I was like a decade, however long ago, but it was 5 women's colleges in the U.S. that had wrestling. That's it. And we were like 4th, like we only had like 10 girls, like then you had Kentucky, the Cumberlands, which had like 50 girls. Oh, wow. So we could even compete with that. Now fast forward like 10 years and they win a national championship.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm very, proud of my alma mater, like I love
just
that.
To think you were part of that and you helped grow that.
Yeah. And that's, like I love that. And that's definitely what I can kind of, when I'm done fighting, I can say like, I was part of that, not the first wave, because that's Gina Carano, that's Cyborg, Leslie Smith, Julie Kenzie, like all these women that not a lot of people, MMA fans nowadays, they don't know about them. But if you're a diehard MMA fan,
That's
then
what you should have on, Gina Carano.
I mean, of course, I'd love her, but
that would be so cool, especially with she's going through some stuff right now with the whole man.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, but that would be cool. Gina
Yeah,
Carano.
no, I would love to have her on. Yeah,
for sure.
Are you a Latina?
I am. I'm half Mexican and half. No, I don't know. On my father's side, Hispanic.
That's a banjo she's playing.
Yeah. That's the air banjo. But I don't know my real father. But I do know. It's a crazy story, actually. I have a sister who found me a few years ago and said, "Hey, I think we're sisters. Would you mind taking a DNA test?" And I'm like, okay. And so we did it. She's a very nice girl. She swabbed my mouth. I got the results back. And like, yeah, it's a match. Like, we have the same father. Yeah, some crazy family stories like that, but like, we don't have time. But like, like I always kind of knew that, my dad wasn't my real dad. And we didn't talk about it. It was like, shh, don't talk about it.
That's amazing.
And then this girl out of nowhere a couple years ago comes into my life. And I'm like, you know me, like I said, it's like, oh, you got to just try it. Just do it. Like, I'm just like, all right, let's do it. And
how do you feel about that?
I was unfazed because some people are like, oh, like I feel hurt or this or that. I'm just like, oh, that's cool, and her and I don't have a strong relationship now, but because she lives in a small town, but we talk and it's cool, and like,
that's cool.
Yeah, like I'm not like upset about anything, I'm not like, oh, too bad we didn't have all this time together. It is what it is, and we know each other now, and let's just move forward from there.
She just rolls with the punches, dude.
I guess so.
She's a cool chick, man. I told you, dude. I told you. That's why I'm like, oh man, I love her. I love her.
That's awesome, man. Seriously, straight up.
I think that's it. But we're gonna have to have you on again. I got a lot of questions.
Yeah, I could talk all day too.
So here's what's really funny. And I wanted to save it to the end because I didn't want to kill the vibe. Like the first 10 minutes of that, something happened. And it had like a glitch. It didn't record, so I didn't say anything because, like I said, I wanted it to just be cool.
It's all good.
Yeah, but we talked enough where I know that we're gonna create a great product. But yeah, so for anybody that didn't get that first part, and I'll probably edit this out or edit it in.
Yeah.
Ashlee Evans-Smith. Yeah, so I had to get that back in there because I'm gonna put that in.
Okay. We lost 2 hours one time.
Oh, and it was a fire one too.
We were just going back and forth, and we were
talking about like growing up and like about our dads, and we're just cracking up because we're like so different. Like our dads couldn't like be further away on the spectrum, and so we're like, we're feeling good about it. And as we're like exiting, I always check it. I'm like, I almost cried, dude. It was like 2 hours worth of just work, and but anyway, so thank you. Good to have you on. How do people find you?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. It's Ashlee at ASHLEE, no Y, MMA, and that's on Twitter, that's on Snapchat, that's on Instagram. And then if you want to do the podcast, it's on Instagram as well. It's at Sex and Violence with Rebel Girl, all spelled out. And we are now on YouTube as well. It's
Sweet.
Spotify, iTunes, all that. Everything's linked in my Instagram. You know what a link tree is?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just found that out. Okay, a little slow to the party. But yeah, I got a link tree. If you click on that link tree in my bio, you get all the website information.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Gary, how do we find you?
Gary H72 on Instagram. Also, we are on Facebook at Gary and Abel, the Boiler Room podcast, and Instagram, the Boiler Room podcast.
On Instagram, SimpleMan07. Everything else is Black Belt Collective. Check out our website, Huntington Beach, selfdefense.com, and hit us up. Come by. Tell them Ashlee sent you, and you'll get treated really well. All right, love you guys. Thank you, Ashlee. It's awesome.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, man, that sucks at the first 10 minutes to record.